walking, the people talking.
The link between the illicit drug market and deforestation is complicated. The money from the illicit drug markets is reinvested into other forms of criminality. Now, this is a very important key thing that we need to understand here, because there is more money in the illicit drugs market than any other form of criminality. So another way of explaining what the National Crime Agency is saying there is that other crime becomes possible because of that investment. What happens with the illicit drug markets is that though the value in those markets corrupts entire governments. Now, it used to be that transnational organized crime who were trafficking drugs would just corrupt customs officials or police officers or politicians as individuals to make their life much more easy. But nowadays it's moved on a long way from there, because it's actually much more efficient, if you can, to corrupt an entire government. And that's what's happened, for example, to the governments in West Africa, most notably Guinea-Bissau, Senegal and Guinea. And the problem is, when you've corrupted an entire government, that means that all other forms of criminality can piggyback that corruption. That means that if you already own the government, you can get away with anything, including clearing your forests. So the problem is, now we're approaching COP26 and there'll be lots of agreements of action that needs to be done. And many nations will commit to stopping the cutting down of trees, and they will commit to planting more. But if you're a country that doesn't control your own backyard because of the corruption caused by the illicit drugs trade, how can you make that commitment? If the world realizes the extent of this problem from corruption in 30 years' time, it's going to be 30 years too late. We need to be facing up to this right now. As far as I can see at the moment, there are two options about how we tackle that corruption, or rather, how we deal with the immediate crisis that corruption has created. We either invite the people to the table who have the control over those forests, which at the moment is transnational organized crime, or we take the power away from transnational organized crime by taking the drug markets off them. And the only way we can do that is to legally regulate those drug markets. You know, this fantasy of a drug-free world eroded decades ago. We cannot deal with this with more policing. Over time, we create these monopolies, and you can see them all over the world. There used to be 20 cartels in Mexico, and now there are only 3. Now, the problem is, if you're having fewer people in control of those resources, each one of them is richer as a result of them growing, by the opportunities that law enforcement create. And if your organization grows, if you've got more money, it means you can invest that money in corruption. So actually, the thinning out of the competition that policing does is what causes the corruption, because you get monopolies and cooperatives that get rich enough to corrupt entire nations. So we don't have much options, really. We either have to decide to talk to the organized crime or take those markets away from them. How much will this get listened to during COP26? I don't know. But I do know we have to commit, get everyone to understand just how much of a catastrophe the corruption is that's been caused by drug prohibition. We have to get people to understand we're all on the same team here, and we need to win every battle to save this planet.